Hey guys, you're watching the Best Practices Show, where we take a look at the best business practices from the best dental practices all across the country. And some of you might be thinking, where do I go here in the future? And today we're going to be talking about how to dream big, the importance of it, and the steps to do it with one of the industry's best, one of my good friends, Dr. Mickey Bernstein. So you do not want to miss this. So do me a favor, grab a pen and hit the share button. We'll see you in a second. Hey guys, welcome back to the Best Practices Show. We are having so much fun doing this, and so thank you again for watching today. And a lot of the questions coming in, some of the things people want to see is just about the future of dentistry and where to go and some of the steps to make it happen. And so today I've got a really special episode with a good friend of mine who is an incredible leader in this great profession, Dr. Mickey Bernstein. And so you don't want to miss this. Now, before we get started, a couple show notes. We are shooting this episode live on Facebook. So if you have questions as you're watching it, please feel free to add questions to the feed, and I'll make sure that we ask Mickey directly. Or if you're watching it later after the live feed, feel free to ask the questions, and we'll make sure that we get you the answers. And again, we love the questions so much that we're giving away a free Apple iWatch every single week to the best question asked on any particular episode, any show, and we just love it. Plus 2 tickets to our practice growth seminar called Activate. So you do not want to miss that. Now, my guest today, when I asked him to do this, he's like, absolutely. So somebody I've looked up to for a long time, who's been a friend, a mentor, colleague, and just a great leader in this great profession. And So as you look at the future, you know, he's been great. He's had his own practice for a long time, very involved with the AACD and other organizations in dentistry, and also very good with the strategic planning. And so, Mickey, thank you so much for being on, buddy. I really, really appreciate it.
Thank you, Kurt. Glad to be here. I'm really honored when I saw the lineup of all the people that you've interviewed, and just glad to be included amongst them. And I really, really appreciate it. And have had this long career so far of 42 years in dentistry. It's been just wonderful, and I'm really thankful for all my mentors, including people like L.D. Pankey, who changed my life. And I actually got to meet him and sit down and talk to him and learn from him and take his courses. People like Jimmy Eubank and Corky Wilhite, and Bob Frazier was a great mentor of mine. I really appreciate my staff, who's been so supportive of me through all of this, and my wife and family. My wife and I are in the consulting business together, and you and I collaborate a lot. And you know, I might point out to the audience that I sold my practice 11 years ago, but I realized that we were not the right consultants for our own team, so we invited Act Dental to come consult our team for a couple of years, and we're very, very pleased with the results we got from that.
Yeah.
So that was exciting.
Yeah, and it's been fun. It's been fun, and I'm just grateful for our relationship. And you know, one of the things, you being such a great leader and great mentor, you know, you brought this up many times, and we were talking about this, is the overall concern and ethics of the future of dentistry. And I want you to talk about that a little bit, because you've seen all of the shifts and changes. Why is that such an important conversation nowadays?
And that is something that I'm interested in, and at the same time, I'm concerned about it. But kind of leading up to that, I want to make a couple of statements. And as an overall theme of what we're going to talk about today, as you said in the introduction, dreaming is going to be the big thing. Mm-hmm. And I think what we're going to talk about is applicable to any business, whether it's a big business, a small business, a dental practice size business, or a stay-at-home business. It all applies. And I want you to keep in mind that it's not about the money.
Right.
It's not about the dollars earned. It is about the service that you provide to your patients, customers, and your community. It is about relationships. It is about the lives that you're able to change. It is about helping your team, your employees, fund their family budget.
Yep.
And if you do these things, dollars will follow, and a good living will follow if you're paying attention, being a good listener, working on relationships, etc.
Yeah.
Now,
Absolutely.
Go ahead.
Well, and I was going to just say that, this is one of those great professions, and I think you would agree. Some of the people that you have known for a very long time, including yourself, done very well, their focus was never the money. Their focus was doing the right thing with the right people at the right time of day, and just really just focusing on that, because when you do all of those things, it lends itself to a better financial result. And being that dentistry offers so much of a profit margin, it's really very cool that you can choose to make all of these different components of the business that really reflect your core values. And that's what we're talking about today, Mickey, is just, when you dream, you can decide all these things and create a business that when you, wake up a decade or 2 decades later and you go, hey, look, this is great. This is a reflection of who I am. And we've done extremely well in this process.
Absolutely. Let's talk about the state of dentistry for a moment.
Absolutely.
And in the past, in fact, if we go way back to the past, dentists were blacksmiths and barbers, and that's who did dentistry, and there were no license. And the first dental school wasn't until about 1840 in the United States. And as you fast forward, when I started dentistry in 1975, it was basically what I call mom and pop traditional practices. And those traditional practices, there's usually one dentist. They might have had a hygienist. Many of them didn't even have an assistant. And they could make a good living regardless. Just hang out a shingle and go for it. But the world's changed a lot. And we fast forward to the present time, there's so many different models of dentistry. And people, there's now managed care focused practices. There's large chains that are owned by corporations that are publicly traded. There's the relatively new CEO, what I call CEO style of dental practice, where individual or small groups of dentists are buying up practices or starting a chain of small practices and hiring associates. And all of these serve the public in different ways. Right. I'm not judging anybody. But there's been an opportunity for something we focus on, which I'll call the high-end concierge practice. Okay. But something that has emerged out of all this is I'm seeing people come in our office, and as I talk to other people around the country, they're coming into other practices too with these great big treatment plans that they don't need. My own daughter in Denver went to a dentist that a friend referred, and she called her dad, who happens to be a dentist, and said, Dad, they said I need a root canal and a crown and 6 fillings and periodontal treatment. And I said, well, just wait till Easter, and when you come home, we'll just take a couple of x-rays and take a careful look and see. I kind of doubt it. But she came in and examined and looked at it very carefully and tried to have an open mind. Could somebody have interpreted it this way? But my interpretation was no periodontal disease, no root canal needed, no crown needed, and maybe 1 or 2 fillings. But in my interpretation, no fillings. So she didn't need anything. And people come into my office at least once a month with this same type of thing. And I'm finding that this is starting in certain models of dentistry and bleeding over into the traditional practice as well, because people feel like they have to compete and they have to make money. And I feel like people are misinterpreting that insurance is driving their overhead up and their profit margin down, so they have to do a lot of dentistry. And we're going to talk about a lot of ways that you could still make a great living and have really good ethics.
Right.
And I just want to say to all the viewers out there that you have the ability to make sure this doesn't happen, to preach on it, to make sure you yourself are presenting dentistry and diagnosing and treatment plan dentistry that you would have in your own mouth.
Yeah.
And that's all I ask of you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I completely agree. You do have the choice of being able to do that. Now, that is really such an important conversation. Now, can you just talk about this too? Because I want to kind of dig into that, why that's happened. You know, when I got started in this industry, you mentioned a lot of the great mentors that I had, you know, early on, even though I didn't know LD or didn't really, you know, Jimmy Eubanks and I aren't the closest friends or weren't, you know, but their voices were very strong in our motivation behind the direction. Do you feel like some of those voices are getting lost because there's too much information, or why do you think this line has been blurred so much?
Well, certainly with modern technology and social media, and the many, many organizations are now, it's easy for anybody to have a voice. And I know on a lot of these blogs and stuff, anybody can reply and sound authoritative that maybe isn't as educated as well as it was. But once upon a time, for Jimmy Eubank or Peter Dawson or someone like that to be on the stage, they had to really have credentials.
Right.
And, you know, I think that's a factor. And there's a lot of blur there. So I think we as hopefully we're all still students, no matter how long we've been practicing, but, you know, we have to vet who we're listening to.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And when you're talking about your story, I mean, I listen to you a lot, and tell us about, you know, 42 years of experience, and you now do help dentists with strategic planning. You know, give us some perspective on some of the things that you've been through when it comes to dreaming big and making that happen.
Yeah, well, I'm going to start out and say I was not planning on being a dentist.
Really?
All right. Actually, I goofed off in college for a couple of years, and I applied to about 13 med schools and did not get in. And I went ahead and applied to dental school as an alternative with the plan that I would make sure I made very high grades, and then I would walk across the hall to the med school and say, okay, would you let me in now? But really, from the first week, I had no idea what dentistry was about, and really enjoyed it. And really did well in the early anatomy and waxing classes and all that. So my focus was really on business, because my dad was a corporate accountant, and my dad was a corporate tax attorney. My mom was an accountant, and that's what we talked about at the dinner table. So that was my background, and I was really into organizations and being president of fraternities and things like that from an early age. Mm-hmm. But I jumped right in. Most of the courses I took for the first several years of dental practice were all on management practice development. And I looked up one day after a few years and went, wait a minute, there's got to be more to dentistry than this. Mm-hmm. And, you know, one of my influencers suggested I go to the Pankey Institute. But at that time, and this was the early 80s, there was no other place in the United States to go to get advanced education unless you want to go to Europe. And so I actually borrowed money and went off to the Pankey Institute, where I ended up going once a year for 5 years and went through their whole curriculum. And it really changed my life and changed the way I approach dentistry. Right. And but, you know, moving forward, I'm going to fast forward you. I really had a great general practice and got to do a fair amount of reconstruction and learn how to equilibrate teeth well. And I felt like my practice was very well run. And I did a lot of mentoring on the side and helped a lot of people. And that was really fun. But after 20 years of practice, I decided I was bored. And I'd been successful in real estate too. And I decided I was going to get out of dentistry. Of course, this is about 19 years ago.
Okay.
I was going to get out of dentistry and go and get in the real estate business full time. And so in the process of doing that, I was preparing my practice, as I always do. I always prepare for sale. And I read in Woody Oaks newsletter way back then that this coming thing of cosmetic dentistry was going to be really big, and that could really increase the value of your practice. And the best place to learn it was the AACD. So he gave us a toll-free number, and I called that toll-free number that day and joined, and went off the next year to my first meeting in San Diego, and was totally blown away by the dentistry I saw put up on the screen in slides, of course, in 1996 by Jimmy Eubank and Corky Wilhite and Buddy Mopper and Bob Nixon, who's gone now, but lots of others, and took the hands-on courses and really started learning and enrolled in their accreditation process that same week. Mm-hmm. And 3 years later, I was accredited in cosmetic dentistry. Mm-hmm. And I felt like that was a big, big honor, and probably more difficult for me to go through that process than even dental school. A lot of people are shocked every time I say that, but it's a journey. Mm-hmm. And who really benefited was my patients, because my skill level increased so much. But what happened ultimately was I fell in love with dentistry all over again.
Yeah. Well, and really that's a big part of what we're talking about today, is that in any profession, as you start moving along, you can hit these stale points. You hit a plateau or whatever. And maybe it was the AACD that just came along at the right time for you, or it was the Pankey Institute, or you come across a mentor that just relit that spark and maybe give clarity to a bigger dream. Is that applicable to say?
Yeah, good. Very good point. And I think everybody probably has those mentors and those opportunities out there if you keep your eyes open and look for them. And, sometime you may go to some course or talk to some potential mentor and it's not the right fit, but that's not a reason to not keep trying, of course. So after that, I because of my influence of my mentors in the AACD, over about a 5-year period, became an insurance-free practice. Mm. And that was a big, big change. It was a little scary at first, but that's something that's one of the hallmarks of our consulting business, is help people through that process and show them how they can actually see fewer people, work fewer hours, make more money, and do better dentistry. Yeah. And cosmetic and restorative became my focus after I sold my practice in 2006. Okay. One of my principles was sell your practice when it's at its peak. Don't wait till you decline. Mm-hmm. And so I've been an associate in the same practice for 11 years. And my wife, consulting partner, who's also my patient coordinator, also works there. So that's kind of a rare thing too, that we've all gotten along that well. Yeah. But we have. So that's been a great, great journey. And I've had the opportunity to travel around the country and the world and represent the AACD and do some speaking and teaching. And I teach at the dental school, and I mentor a student aesthetic study club. And it's just my true joy and fulfillment to help people that want help.
Right. Right. And I would agree with that. Helping people that want help is the key here. Now, when you do help somebody, you're talking about a fee-for-service practice and the strategic planning part. You have a completely unique way of looking at strategic planning. Let's say a dentist is watching this and says, hey, I can relate with Mickey's story. I've done everything. I need something to motivate myself. I want to go in that direction. Give us some insight on how you see the strategic planning process when somebody wants to achieve big dreams in dentistry.
Great. I think running a dental practice, you have to look at all the different factors as pieces of the puzzle. Okay. And strategic planning is one piece of the puzzle, and there's many others. So when we I want to, that this is not the sexy stuff.
It isn't. No.
It's not as exciting as doing prepless veneers.
Right.
But it's so necessary. And I saw an article just yesterday, I think, or the day before, from Seth Godin. And Seth Godin is somebody I get his blog and read it every single day. So if anybody doesn't get Seth Godin's, just Google him and go ahead and subscribe, because he has great stuff every single day. But he said he called it the unfairness of paint. And he said repainting your house the same color it already was feels like a waste of time. And it's a lot of effort merely to keep things as they are. But if you don't do it, time and entropy kicks in and the house starts to fade. So the time can be said for 1,000 elements of your organization, including your relationships with customers and your staff and suppliers and technology. But the way you approach your market, the skill you bring to your craft, and the culture to your organization, it constantly needs another coat of paint, constantly. But he says, rust never sleeps. I love that phrase. So I think of, again, I say it's not the sexy stuff, but it's the necessary stuff that we need to do. Yeah. So step one, which we titled this, is dreaming. And that's kind of been my little twist on strategic planning. Of course, strategic planning is taught in business schools across this country every single day.
Right.
So, but dentists, for the most part, have never heard of this phrase or this process. And I think it's a great way to run any business. And I encourage people to not rush into it, but start with dreaming. And with our consulting clients, we ask them to dream for a week or two or even a month and make notes about what they're dreaming about. And we prompt them about what to dream about. So what kind of patients do you want to see in this dream, that if you said money and time don't matter and you have no limitations, just dream.
Right.
And what kind of patients do you see? What does your staff look like? What does your building look like? What kind of procedures are you doing? Are people flying in from out of town? What kind of fee do they gladly pay? And many more things. And we try to get it all down on paper. And I don't care if it's just a scratch piece of paper or formally written out. It doesn't matter. But I think it's a process to go through, because the next step after you dream is values clarification.
Yeah.
And we got to know, you and your team have to know what you stand for. So
now, can you talk about why that's so important? Because I found that to be one of the most important parts of my business, or any business, because sometimes people skip over this. They skip over the whole values clarification, and now they just get into the details. Why is this such an important exercise?
Okay. Well, the why, of course, you and I both know, is always important.
Right.
Why do we do everything is we have to identify. But if we don't know what our values are and we go off and make a change, say we decide we're going to change our financial policy. But if our values are such that if one of our values is to make dentistry accessible to all our patients, and we're going to have a very hard financial policy because somebody told us it worked well for that, that's contradictory to our values.
Right.
It may fit their values, but it's contradictory to our values. So we need to develop a customized financial system that fits our values.
Right.
So some of the values, of course, are integrity and honesty. And those are the things, but there's other values like they're more specific to dentistry, like that you may choose to adopt, like no patient should have significant dentistry without a comprehensive exam.
Right.
Or something I learned from LD Pankey, he had the value, I will never pull a tooth again, ever. He referred people to pull teeth, but he decided he was never going to pull a tooth. And I've adopted the value, I'm never going to pull a tooth that doesn't need to be pulled.
Right.
So if some patient comes in and says, I would like my tooth pulled, and I say, well, it's really a pretty healthy tooth. You're going to need a root canal and a crown, but you don't want to lose that tooth. And I'll sit there and talk to them for 20 minutes about the importance of saving that one tooth. And if they're still saying, no, I just want my tooth pulled, I'll do one of two things, and that's refer them to somebody else because they're not a fit for our practice. Or I'll say, well, I'll tell you what, you pay for the root canal, I'll pay for the crown. It's that important to me that's my value.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Because you find this anytime that you cross your values or core values, you just, number one, you feel lousy about it, but then you're also going to attract more of that activity, whether it be patients, team members, all that kind of stuff. It's crucial, important in the strategic planning process. What happens after you do value clarification? So you said values is number 2. Where do we go after that?
So thank you. The next step is creating vision. And this is difficult for a lot of dentists. It comes very easy to me, but and I think creating a vision is kind of a primary component of leadership. And leaders continually articulate their vision and their values and their standards. Stephen Covey, this is his second habit: begin with the end in mind. So again, we take that dream and those values and cull it down into a clearly written vision. And the staff is very involved in this too, because it has to be their vision too. Sometimes we have each department of the staff write their own vision and then pull it together into one vision for the entire team. But the vision becomes something that is achievable,
right?
Where the dream may have been some dreamy thing that may not ever happen, but the vision's a very achievable thing, and of course Stephen Covey says it, and Kurt Barrett says it all the time, and I say it, that if you have a lofty vision and you set about on the business of making it happen, you may not hit it, but you'll get a whole lot closer to it.
Yeah.
And interesting, prior to working with Act Dental, our office had written a very lofty vision. And we looked up one day and said, you know what? We've accomplished every one of our goals in our vision, every single one of them. And that's one of the reasons we came to you guys and said, helped us move even higher.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. Yeah, and you guys do all the work. Now, the other thing too, though, Mickey, would you agree? Sometimes, when you're writing the vision, you've got your dream put together. You don't want to, again, limit yourself in this. Sometimes I think, and you can tell me if you see this too, sometimes people just don't go for it all the time. They'll go, well, I've got some team members that might not buy into this. And so what you do is there's a little recession that goes on with your vision. Now, can you just speak about that? Because you don't want to compromise your vision, because you'll wear the discrepancy of that for your entire career.
Correct.
Right?
Correct. And I like to talk about there are teams that are going to be resistant, particularly if your vision is something like becoming insurance free and you've got several team members that have always worked with managed care. Then that's a difficult change for them, but not an impossible change. And that's where leadership comes in. And I like to talk about, if we have a big old boulder sitting out in the field and we want to roll it down to the other end of the field, one person pushing it by themselves is never going to make it happen.
Right.
But if the entire team gets over there and starts rocking it and gets it to roll in just a little bit, it kind of develops a momentum and keeps going. And I think that's the same way when we start having a vision, and we're going to talk about the other components of that in a moment. But I think that's the way it is, that we have to overcome that entropy that Stephen Covey talked about earlier to make that happen. And people will always go back to their default position. So you may have new verbal skills on the phone that go with this new vision, and people will tend to go back and do what's comfortable.
Right.
The dentist will tend to go back to their former exam process that's comfortable if this is not really solid and the whole team buys into it and there's a real system or monitor in place to keep things going and keep that big boulder rolling across that field.
Yeah, absolutely, buddy. Absolutely.
So, the next step is to take that vision and cull it down to a mission statement. And that's not really for the patient. That's for us. You can put the mission statement on the wall, but that's really for us so we understand our why. Right. And I encourage teams to read that mission statement or parts of it at every single team meeting and make it a living document and talk about what we did this week to fulfill our mission.
Okay. Now, can you differentiate just a little bit between vision and mission? Are both of those written? Do you recommend both of those are written? And how are they the same or separate?
Yeah, of course, they're both written. And vision is a very lengthy, lofty description of where you want to be in 5 years or 10 years, whatever you choose. Okay. Where mission is just a paragraph or two of who you are and what you stand for and why you're there. And each team member could have even a smaller version of that, which some people call their elevator speech. That if some people say, what do you do in the time it takes to ride an elevator from the top to the bottom of a building, you could tell them in an impactful way what you do. My answer, I love doing this when I'm sitting next to somebody on the plane and they say, what do you do? And I go, well, I'm in the happiness business.
That's awesome.
That's all I say. And they say, what do you mean? And that opens the door for me to tell them how cosmetic dentistry changes people's lives.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Very well stated. Now, after we have the mission statement, what happens next?
Okay, so then we have to define goals. And goals should be, of course, written and have a timeline. And we should have clear resources and who's going to do it. And I suggest not having more than about 3 goals at a time, complete those, and then have 3 more goals. And these goals come out of the vision. Where are we going? So what are the next most important steps to accomplish goal-wise to get there?
Yeah.
And when you do this in this very organized way, it's not really that hard.
Right.
Following goals comes systems. So in order to accomplish those goals, we need to have business and clinical systems.
Yeah.
And these should be written. And they should talk about how you do them, why you do them, what they are, when they're done in detail. And everybody in the team needs to buy into it and say they will do it and they will try. And we need to retrain on them on a regular basis.
Right. Now, you could speak to this firsthand because you not only have done this and you do it extremely well, but you help other offices too. Writing systems is not easy. I mean, you have to get everybody on board. And we always say if it isn't written down, then it doesn't exist. But what's some of your experience in systems or, insight that you could give people watching this on systems?
Well, I think what I said before, that you want to know why you're doing it, first of all.
Yeah.
And how you're going to do it and when it's done and who's going to do it and what. But, this is a place where a consultant can really help. And Act Dental is absolutely fabulous at this. And Bernstein Consulting does it too. And after these systems are developed, and there may be 60 or more in the typical practice.
Right.
And you can take it as far as you want. You can have a system for how you're going to sterilize equipment. You can, the more obvious systems are your recall system, your financial arrangement system, but there's little things people don't think about that are also important.
Mm-hmm.
How do you set up trays? That can be a written system.
Yep.
And then just to write it down isn't enough. The team has to be trained on it, and you have to take the time to train, which leads us to team meetings. So the only way this works is to have regular team meetings. And a lot of people dread team meetings. That's, again, like paint to some people, but you can make it exciting. And if the whole team has bought into the vision and the mission and why, then all of a sudden the meetings take on validity. And if they're structured well, and again, a good coach can help you structure it well, the team meetings don't have to last that long,
right,
and can get a lot accomplished in a shorter period of time.
Yeah, absolutely. What would you say to somebody who says, I don't have time to do team meetings? Because I hear that one too.
Yeah, and of course I would say, if you want to move forward and be successful, then you don't have time not to.
Right.
And of course, study after study has shown that not just dental practices, but companies that take the time to plan and study and work do more at the end of the year than those that don't. Because everybody knows what they're doing. The patients come in and feel like it's highly organized, and all these systems are working in harmony and in sync. And your brand ends up being very, very profound to the public, because you took the time to do it. And then, of course, kind of the final component, which is, again, my twist on this is you got to have monitors. Right. And for some systems, monitors is numbers to compare every month. But for other monitors, it's a person who's going to be responsible for standing behind the people who's answering the phone and making sure that it's done correctly. And that doesn't mean that they critique them or correct them on a regular basis. That means if they see a pattern, then they tell the practice administrator or the doctor, we need to retrain on the phone answering system, because I'm seeing us getting off base. It's as simple as that.
Absolutely. And what gets measured gets improved, but what gets measured on and reported on gets exponentially improved. I couldn't agree more. The monitors are a good gauge to see if we're on track or not.
Absolutely.
Anything else that you'd recommend just to kind of tie the whole strategic planning process together? Do you recommend doing that once a year, once a quarter? Mickey, what do you think?
I think you set a time depending on where you are in your life. If you're a new dentist, 1 year in practice and going to do this, I think a 5-year vision is appropriate. If you're a retiring dentist, or you're going to retire in the near future, maybe a shorter vision is appropriate. But for more people in the middle ground, looking I think 10 years out is appropriate.
Right.
And it varies. There's no right and wrong on the time limit. But I think that's something to consider.
Yeah.
I'd like to talk about branding if I can for just a minute.
Please. And, absolutely.
I think everybody in every business has a brand, whether they think they have one or not. And a lot of people think a brand is a logo like a Nike swoosh, but it's not.
Okay.
And I have a friend, I'm in the Memphis area, and our biggest employer is Federal Express. And the executive vice president of Federal Express is a friend of mine named Mike Glenn.
Mm-hmm.
And Mike Glenn said that his job is keeper of the brand. Mm-hmm. And he defined the brand as everything that a customer or a potential customer may come into contact with about your company ever.
Right.
So that includes everything.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not only your marketing and your advertising, but it's how you answer the phone, how you conduct your new patient experience, how every single team member, including the hygiene assistant, interacts with members, with patients, excuse me. It can be planned, and it can be something you want to put in your vision of what you want your brand to be. And in the systems, you can have a branding system of how you're going to get there. Right. And I think that's worth putting in detail. A lot of dental practices across the country and a lot of companies are recognizing that community involvement and giving back to the community helps their brand. Of course, doing it for the wrong reasons doesn't help your brand, but if you do it with the right heart, whether you sponsor a 5K or help people with the AACD's Give Back a Smile program to help women that have been abused by their loved ones and had their teeth damaged, or whether you just do charitable work within your office for a while, or there's lots of ways to help your community and help your brand.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And when it comes to the culmination of this brand, a lot of it comes back to just basic core communication things. And you've learned a lot, and that's really, because when people speak about your practice, your brand, a lot of the things they're going to reference will be how they felt, how they were communicated with, the people, all that kind of stuff. And Mickey, you've learned a lot of incredible things in communication. What are some of the basics you would say that are important in creating this practice of your dreams?
Yeah. Communication, is something is real important. And, there's about 5 points of contact in the office. Scheduling the appointment, clinical exam, hygiene, case presentation, they all need to be handled well. There's the first phone call is very high priority. You must have ample time. And, we really encourage people to, when a new patient calls, to have a separate area where the person answering the phone can talk to that person and take as much time as they need and build a relationship on the phone and make the patient feel like that they have no need to call anywhere else. They've reached the last patient, and sending out a patient packet is part of it. The new patient experience, we could spend an hour or two on that real easily. But how the patient enters the practice and what's the role of each team member, and how you're going to treat different patients seeking different care, whether you're going to have a cosmetic analysis appointment or a free orthodontic consultation or a free snoring, sleep apnea consultation. Lots of things you can do. Case presentation in brief, and financial arrangements. We recommend you do it in the consultation room, not chairside.
Yeah.
Have some privacy. Always make it about the relationship. Everything. The phone call, the case presentation, every contact is about relationship.
Yeah.
In real estate, they say location, 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 and I say relationship.
Yeah, absolutely. When you're creating, sometimes you can get a little discouraged, and I hear this all the time. This week I'm speaking in a couple different places, and you hear dentists come up to you and they're like, it'd be great, but I can't do that. I want this practice, my dreams, but I don't have a team, or my team won't buy into this, or they won't. What would you say to a young dentist who's trying to create the practice of his or her dreams and runs into consistent roadblocks because you didn't have a practice where it was just super easy for you. Like it just didn't happen. You worked hard at it, right?
Yeah, and actually, I considered myself a good businessman compared to most dentists. And I had worked a little bit before I went to dental school, but you can't do it by yourself.
Yeah,
completely by yourself. And I'm not saying if it's not in your budget, you got to rush out the first day and hire a consultant, but seek mentors that are successful and share your values. And when the time's right for you, find a good consultant to help you. And I know I was 6 months into the practice when I had my first consultant. And even though I consider myself a very good businessman, it was a big, big change. And this consulting firm wasn't anything compared to what's available today.
Yeah. So, getting help is a great, we find as human beings, we're just not designed to reach our potential by ourselves. We need the help of everybody else around us to get there. And then talk about this too. If I'm dreaming big to create my practice, I want you to go in this. There are a lot of different business models. You alluded to it at the beginning, but what are some of the considerations that a young dentist should have today about their business model? And what are some of the good questions they could ask regarding the future?
Okay, well, thank you, because I do get to have the opportunity to mentor a lot of young dentists, dental students, and even pre-dental students that are applying about the future. And they do have opportunities, and I think I'd like them to go through their own little strategic plan before maybe when they're halfway through dental school.
Okay.
And in fact, it's kind of timely because my wife and I are having a group of dental students from the dental school in Memphis to our office a week from Saturday just to spend the morning talking about this topic.
That's awesome.
And I like them to think about, who am I? What's important to me? If it's just money, then you go in one direction. If it's I want to be fulfilled, and I think a lot of millennials, it is about fulfillment.
Yeah.
And it's about time off, and it's about being able to travel, and it's about relationships. I think with a lot of them, I think more of the people my age, it was, I got to get busy and get to work and make some money and support my family. And I think that's how we were raised, and that's what was important in the beginning. As time went on, fulfillment became a bigger part for me.
Right.
So these young folks, if you are overly concerned or very concerned about your student debt and the cost of starting a practice, then there's absolutely nothing wrong with going to work for a corporation that will pay you a acceptable and handsome salary, and usually a starting bonus, but realize you may be doing nothing but single crowns and amalgams all day long.
Right.
And you get some skill and you get some experience. You don't have to do that forever. That's an option.
Yeah.
And I talk to other people who it's very important to do their own thing, to run it their own way, to start applying their personal vision for the future right away.
Right.
So for that person, they want to do, may want to do a startup practice, even though that may not be as much money, maybe the slowest way to make money in the beginning.
Right.
And particularly if they have family help or a spouse that has a good job, then that may work for them just real well. And then there's other people that can become an associate of a traditional practice that has similar vision as they do, and that may be a better fit for them.
Yeah.
And generally, they're not going to make quite as much money. But if they have that with an opportunity to buy it within 5 years, that may be ideal for most people, because they can buy a practice, can associate it, and eventually buy a practice that is not exactly the practice they want, and then gradually change it into the practice they want.
Yeah.
And of course, when you're 25 years old and graduating from dental school, 5 or 10 years sounds like a long, long time. But, to me, if you have a 15 or 20-year vision and you can make it all happen by then, I think that's totally acceptable.
Yeah, and I think you're bringing up a great point here, because if you're a young dentist watching this, there's not one way to do it. There are some students we see fresh out of school, and they're pretty focused on the way they want to practice, and that's great. I think the key here, though, is just when you finish your education, that's really when you have to start becoming even a better student, because your learning is just beginning. And then with any student, you have to do homework. I actually do like it when some kids go out and they work in a busy DSO practice, because they learn speed, efficiency, and maybe what they do like or don't like. And then sometimes, there's the point here is there's not just one model. There's an opportunity to go out there and see what's out there. And I do think this, before you build a building, you've got to have a lot of self-awareness, just your temperament, speed, style, because I find a lot of people will build the building and then they go to a great educational course like, the Institute, go to the Institute, or they go to Dawson, Spear, Coyce, or anything like that. And they go, oh my goodness, like I'm a 1-column dentist. And I realize I've got 9 chairs running. So, I think there's got to be a little bit of all of that. And the coolest part is this is such a great country. You can practice however you want to practice. There's no rules, So that's, and that's really what you're talking about, Mickey, is when you start this business, dream big, make it happen. Really, you're not going to fail. There aren't too many. I don't know many dentists that have failed. Do you?
Well, I know some, not many, but I think it was more early burnout, or they never really tried in the first place, to tell you the truth. But I think those that try and apply themselves and educate themselves and at least pay attention to the basic principles are going to do just fine. Dentistry is a great profession, and dentistry now is attracting the best students instead of med school.
Right.
And the applications to dental school are just huge. And I have this wonderful opportunity that I get to mentor the Student Aesthetic Study Club, sponsored by the ACD at the University of Tennessee. And I meet some of the brightest and most socially adept people I've ever met in my life there. I'm just blown away by how sharp these students are. They're just great.
They are pretty fun. I enjoy them myself too. So any last pieces of advice that you'd give, Mickey, just to somebody who's trying to create the practice of their dreams, things that you've learned for sure in 42 years of practice?
Yeah. Do what you love what you do. Stay focused, but as you alluded to earlier, if you want to be successful, you're going to have to educate yourself beyond dental school. And the most successful people I know, I see at the high end courses over and over again. I see the same faces. They're all continuing to take good courses. They're not afraid to invest in themselves in the form of technology, in the form of consulting services, in the form of hiring the best employees they can get. And I mean, really, you'll do well. But, really, I guess in summary, I want to say it's really my pleasure to share my years of experience and, welcome anybody contacting us. I'm be free to love to do a free phone consultation with you. And I'm going to give you another Seth Godin quote just to kind of end it. And he said, when someone wants to know how big you can make your audience or your market share or your volume, that it might be worth pointing out that it's better to be important, right, to be in sync, and to be the one that's hard to be replaced. Mm-hmm. I love that. And the only way to be important is to be relevant, focused, and specific. Yep. So when we talk about all the strategic planning and all that dreaming, what we're really talking about is how you become relevant, focused, and specific, and how you be in sync, and how you become hard to be replaced. Yep. My wife, patient consultant, loves to say to patients on the phone, I'm really pleased that you drove an hour and a half to see us. You are going to drive an hour and a half to see us because you're going to pass about 200 dentists on the way to see us, and we're just extremely honored to have you here, and we'll do everything we can to meet your expectations.
That's awesome. That is awesome. Well, and I know you do that really, really well. And so Mickey, if somebody's watching this and they want to get a hold of you, how's the best way to get a hold of you?
Well, you can reach us at, you can go to our website, which is bernsteindentalconsulting.com. You can call me at 901-497-3508 or email at mbernst1@comcast.net.
Cool, buddy. Cool, buddy. Well, I am crazy grateful for our friendship and your wisdom, and I really, really appreciate you just carving out some time for us. I know you're a busy guy, so do me a favor. Can you just stay on for a little bit? We'll say goodbye to everybody else, but I'd love to just stay on and chat with you for a second here. So thank you very much for watching today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you have questions during as you're watching the show, please add them to the feed, and Mickey will get back to you. And as always, we enjoy having you on here. So until we see you next time, keep watching the Best Practices Show. You guys have a great day.